Hi everyone, welcome to ShineTalk. My name's Martin Shine, and today I have another guest. That's what this is all about. People hopefully will be watching here, yourself included, and it's all about the people that I'm speaking with, their story, that sort of thing. I've got someone here on the line who is rather eager, waving at the camera, but you can't see him yet. He doesn't know that, but you'll be able to see him. Actually, that's not necessarily true. You certainly can't see him if you're watching live, because for those of you that have joined us on the recording and on the podcast, these podcast sessions also go out live in one way or the other on the internet. So those that are watching it there and getting a bit of an insight can't actually see our guest, that can only hear him today. Now, although that said, they can generally hear him across multimedia platforms and various social media platforms. We'll be learning why and more about that in just a moment, after we've said hello to Andy.
Hello, Martin. Hi, how you doing?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for joining us today. And I know you've got a busy time as well. You were just saying a moment ago, while we were getting this sorted out, up and running and pressing record. It's a bit crazy there, but it's been a bit crazy in general, hasn't it, with all this new technology and your kind of new venture?
Yep, yeah, it is an adventure. Things change and progress and develop at an alarming rate, and just keeping up to date with things is a job in itself. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
This is the point as well. It's almost tied in what you just said there, with that there's never a right time, because as soon as even if you got to a point with whatever you're doing, everything's just right, something's going to change these days, particularly with all this disruptive technology. So you thought you were there, but then suddenly no. So first of all, we met, like I've met a number of people on here, by social media, particularly by this new phenomenon. Well, a lot of people think it's very new, live streaming on the internet. But as you and I know, this has been around for, well, I know it's been around for a good decade. People have had access to platforms on their desktop, on their laptop. But the thing that's made social media and streaming come together right now in the last, 18, 20 months is the fact that people can now just go live to the world at the touch of a button on their mobile device in the palm of their hand, right?
Yeah, yes, indeed. Yeah, it's really the fact that that live streaming's become available for anybody with a mobile phone or a tablet.
Exactly.
So yeah, now anybody who has got a smartphone can get online and broadcast whatever content they want, and also watch a whole load of people that are broadcasting too. So it's the brave new world out there. It
is, but there's always a question mark. Everyone can do it now, but again, question mark. Is that a good thing? Is it a positive thing? Does that mean that we're going to have a great selection now, even bigger selection, those 100 plus cable channels and satellite channels? Is that a good thing? Another topic, I think, for discussion, the topic of choice, and possibly if there is such a thing as too much choice. But I think there's no doubt that live streaming is to some extent displacing television, and potentially could displace television and telephone communication altogether. But I don't think that's going to happen this week or this month. One of them kind of more interesting, well, not more interesting, but one of the other kind of aspects of it is the sociological aspect of live streaming. I think that in general it could potentially make us all far more honest with one another, which can only be a good thing, really. Very good point. Yeah, of course. Authenticity.
And I think it'll keep people who are in the public eye honest as well. Not least politicians, for instance.
Well, it's noticeable. It's changing so fast. Society, communities are changing so fast because of this technology. And exactly what you just said. I mean, yesterday in America, they had one of their big presidential debates. We won't dwell on that too much and all that. So I flicked over to a channel. I thought I was watching a Tom and Jerry cartoon first of all, but then of course I realised no, it was the presidential debate. It was on one of these live platforms. It wasn't Busker. well, it doesn't matter, it was Periscope, but they produced it in such a way, they'd obviously collaborated, they had full graphics on there like a TV show, and it was very, very good in terms of convenience. And as you know, more and more of that's happening now. And it's funny, we say things are changing, but we mustn't forget that there are mortals out there who are a little younger than you and I, and they're just starting out and embracing media as a whole, and this is the norm for them. That's the thing. So we're talking about, obviously, people in their mid-30s upwards. They're in a time of change, but for everyone else, really, this is the norm now. If it's not on your mobile device, it doesn't exist, and if it is on the mobile device, certainly, as we say right now, live streaming and video on demand, of course, they are essential if you've got a brand, a business, and you want to get your message out there. But I like what you said earlier on. It's very true. I mean, there's no hiding in front of the camera.
No, absolutely. And my own personal vision of where live streaming can take us. As I say, it could potentially displace television and displace cellular voice calls, potentially. I don't know whether you want me to expand on that, but
well, why not? I mean, I think go for it. Yeah, that's what we're here for.
The thing is, it's very easy to, as far as technology is concerned, it's very easy to kind of extrapolate out from where we are and come up with some kind of scenario of how the world might work. But potentially, the way I see it is that live streaming, we could potentially be live streaming, all of us, whenever we're awake. And so in terms of interpersonal communication, or just trying to get hold of somebody, then instead of actually calling somebody, what you might actually do is just dip into their channel and have a discussion about whatever it is you want to talk about, and then dip back out again. Now, of course, there's a privacy issue there, but that's a kind of a side issue, really.
Yes.
I mean, the fact is, if I'm streaming 24/7 or whenever I'm awake, and somebody wants to talk to me about something maybe sensitive, then I think there should be some mechanism where we can sort that out.
Well, briefly for now, that was happening. We had this discussion, you and I mentioned it recently. This was happening 10 years ago on a platform out there, no longer in existence, called Justin.tv. And what the phenomenon then was, back then there were no smartphones, but people did have the latest laptop. But even then, laptops didn't have built-in webcams back then, so people would plug in an external webcam into their laptop, charge it up and it would last probably a couple of hours in those days maximum, and put it in a backpack, and the camera would be on a baseball. They were doing something called live casting. Go check it out there on Wikipedia and on Google, but live casting was happening there on Justin TV, and it kind of dipped, I would say, but then again, I tuned out of all of that really in the middle of the last sort of decade, if you like, but other platforms have come along when it comes to streaming, I would say, on a more serious level. When it comes to corporate streams, if you're doing presentations and events, Ustream, Livestream in existence to date, and while this recording's taking place, who knows what will happen in the future, who's buying out who and that sort of thing. But now, as I say, we've come back to, it's almost gone full circle. You've got back to Periscope, Busker, and now people are able to do this live streaming again, live casting again rather, and use streaming. But I think you're right, and almost the default could be in the future that everything I do is public, unless I choose for it to be private. Effectively, is what you're saying.
There'll be some kind of tipping point at which we're mostly public instead of mostly private, as we are now. But what that tipping point will be, and where it'll what will actually precipitate it, that's unknown. But I mean, it's it's worth saying that we always look at technology from the perspective of our present. So right now we're talking about live streaming as though it were some pinnacle that we've reached, whereas it's not. It's just a waypoint in technology. Technology is a runaway train.
Yeah.
And it's constantly developing. So, for instance, the Wright brothers' first powered flight was by any measure, an important technological achievement. But there were other technological, if you like, there were signposts on the way to that, leading up to that, and exactly. As you say, live streaming was around, some considerable time ago. But that you can look at that as being a signpost on the way to live streaming, as we do it now. And who knows whether it's going to be called live streaming when we go, virtually permanently, and we're virtually, we're available 24/7 or whatever. Yeah. So that's just really, it's just that we are at a point in time. We're at a point in time, and we sometimes make the mistake of thinking that the present is the pinnacle
and the definitive. Yeah, exactly.
A continuum that goes on forever.
This is very true and very important point, because exactly tomorrow will certainly be different from today, whether it's moved up or down a peg, if you like. Now, talking about this publicity, for want of better words, and being more in the public eye, in front of a camera, we can hear a noise going on in the background there. You're not mixing any ingredients for a cake right now, that's for sure, because it doesn't look like you're in the kitchen.
We're doing what I do, which is 3D printing.
So that.
Let me see if I can. Is there any way I can turn the camera around?
We can look at that at another time, and I would suggest not at the moment, because if anyone's interested, they can always join your channel as well.
My 3D printer is busily
printing.
3D printing in the background.
Yeah, we've certainly heard that all the time during this.
Right now, it's making these, which are Busker key rings.
Right, so this is for the Busker Live web platform and live streaming platform on the app on people's mobile phones. Tell us a bit about that, because this is the point. We've just been talking about live streaming. You're obviously a 3D printer, as you say, and that's where your skill set lies, or one of them. And you're trying to. This is a fusion, really, isn't it? The technology getting your message out there. So explain about Busker and how it's helped, but also your business.
I tend to think of myself as being a technologist or futurologist or technophile, whatever it may be. I'm excited by developments in technology, but I'm long in the tooth enough to know that they're not maybe quite as exciting as people make out that they are. Of course, there's a great deal of marketing involved. And right now, what I'm involved in is 3D printing, 3D scanning, 3D design, and 3D online content. So, and that encompasses a great deal of 3D. It's like, designing this thing, making it, and also streaming the 3D printing for several reasons.
Yeah, the actual process of making that product.
First of all, it's a process of getting people interested in 3D printing, or getting them to have an appreciation of what's possible with 3D printing. A lot of people have heard of 3D printing. I think very few people haven't nowadays. Very few people on the internet haven't heard of 3D printing in one way or another, and it's a bit of a buzzword. So you hear these headlines about people being able to 3D print replacement ears for people, and hearts, and prosthetic limbs, and cars. Every day there's a new headline that says, now it's possible to 3D print a model of blah blah, whatever it may be. So that's kind of interesting, and I think people are aware of it at a certain level. My job really, when I'm live streaming, is to familiarize people who want to know about it, the things that are involved with it. There's to a certain extent, it's a kind of an antidote to the marketing hype. It's those when a 3D printer is working absolutely perfectly, you can press a button and it will make something for you, but only when it's absolutely working perfectly. And of course, that individual nugget, that little meme, is whizzing around the marketing sphere. So buy this 3D printer, you can press a button and it'll make something. Yeah, and so as I say, my stream to some extent is a kind of an antidote to that. It's like a yes but let's have a look at at the detail, and let's have a look at the realities of things.
Yeah.
So there's that aspect of things. There's the aspect that there are some people who have 3D printers and who consider me to be a source of advice. I would never say I was an expert. There are some people that have made their own built their own 3D printers, have far more detailed knowledge than I do. Of course, I'm an engineer by profession, so I know how the thing works in quite a level of detail, but I just simply don't profess myself to be an expert. It's just there are more people that know far more detail. So there are 3D print people who own 3D printers who come onto my live stream and ask me questions. Then there's the aspect of the entertainment value of 3D printing. I know it sounds a bit strange, but so the entertainment value of 3D printing, and basically that's my competitions that I do on live stream.
Sure.
So basically I'll get a print started, and then people have the opportunity to guess what it is. First person to guess correctly what it is, I'll send it to them. So there's that competition. It's predominantly aimed at the English-speaking world, which is the reason why I start fairly late in the UK, 9 p.m. in the UK. But it means that those people on the East Coast and West Coast of the USA get to watch the live stream as it happens. Yes. Usually lasts about 4 hours. So.
Obviously, we must mention that you've got the option to watch the replay, but again, the whole purpose of this really is the interaction. People can, have instant responses.
I think replays are, they're useful. Yeah. For people to keep in touch with something. You can't keep up to date with every single live stream channel you'd like to. So certainly replays are useful, but for the most part, I think
the live aspect,
the live thing,
exactly. Yeah.
So that's what tends to go on the live streams.
Sure.
And on Busker, it's possible to promote your own products, and actually for people to purchase them directly from the stream, which is a very useful way of keeping the stream going in terms of, from a purely financial point of view. Giving away free 3D printed prizes every week may not sound expensive, but actually it is.
Well, someone's got to keep that electricity going there as well,
Absolutely.
and
absolutely, it's not just electricity; it's materials,
exactly,
and it's postage and all that kind of stuff.
Internet connection, you might say.
So it's all kind of handy stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I know you're not mobile necessarily at the moment, anyway, with your live streaming. But even so, again, as we just said, the internet connection is one. But particularly, there are streamers out there that are out and about streaming, showing people various sights and sounds of a city and their lifestyle and their life. And of course, as I say, it's not too cheap at the moment when it comes to mobile broadband and internet connections. So yes, as you just highlighted, the great thing about the current platform you're using, which is Busker, as we know, the main one out there is Periscope, it's been around longer, it's therefore more popular. We know that's a fact right now. But the one thing that
Periscope as well. Usually, I tend to do a relatively short scope, about 3/4 of an hour on Periscope immediately before I go on to Busker. That's to keep in touch with the people that want to keep in touch with me on Periscope, and to give them some value and offer them the opportunity to join in competitions on Busker. But that's just kind of one way that I'm working it. I don't regard it as being as a transition from Periscope to Busker. I think for the time being, the two
they complement each other, don't they?
Exist in parallel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. But you touched on a very important point, of course, which is that Busker, certainly for people like yourself, you're able to initiate e-commerce much more easier. But the key thing is that because people are watching video on their mobile device, if they suddenly did want to make a purchase, generally speaking, elsewhere, they'd have to go off of what they're watching to go and do that. And it does help having that immediacy there and the functionality within the app. That's the whole point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's very handy. Of course, there are some people who, people use live streaming for all kinds of reasons. Some people use it just to keep in touch with their friends or whatever it may be, and then there are at the other end of the spectrum, there are companies that are using it solely to promote their own products or their own brand in one way or another. I kind of fall between the two, in the respect of the fact that that this is me in the potato shed. My name's Potato Shed, so the two aren't really distinguished in any way. I'd like to think that I'm as authentic as I can possibly be on my scopes, and it's certainly, sitting there watching yourself on a screen, for 4 hours at a time certainly helps you to do that, to be authentic, to be consistent, and be yourself. And I think that's what people, viewers respond to. So that's kind of cool.
No, you just hit on something there as well, and I've said, and I'll always say, these days, certainly now, again, we've gone past tipping point where brands and businesses are just about that final product. It's about the person behind the product. It's about the people and a team, if there's a team, who actually go behind, who work behind the scenes anyway, whatever the business, to bring that final product to the end user. And also, I guess this also is an extension of after sales service as well. People can still stay in tune with you, see what's new in the future, that sort of thing, where things are developing and going. It's about this more protracted relationship, and almost, if necessary, a lifelong relationship with the after sales service can certainly be entertaining for some people. Maybe not for me. No, but when I'm sitting there streaming and somebody that I've sent something to says, "Andy, I've been waiting for 2 weeks for this thing and it hasn't arrived," I'm sure that a lot of people who are watching will sit there and giggle. It's not a giggling matter as far as I'm concerned, but I'm sure that adds to the entertainment element. Yeah, the entertainment.
It can cause a bit of, usually I know what I'm going to say in the next sentence, and in that kind of situation, sometimes it takes a bit of tap dancing, as we used to say. It's like, okay, right, I'll send one out to you, whatever. But as far as customer service is concerned, I think that part of it, the funny thing is that the democracy in its widest sense of live streaming can be daunting for large companies.
Well, it can, because
I can imagine that, as you say, it's about connecting a person to a brand or a product.
Well, it is, but what you just said about companies and brands almost being scared or frightened or just totally not familiar with that. Of course,
absolutely. I mean, there's very, very few companies that have actually successfully connected an individual with with their brand. I'd say, KFC have done it in some respect. McDonald's and Burger King have attempted to do it, and that's it's a virtual character. Ronald McDonald and the Hamburglar and all of that stuff. They're or Burger King. They're virtual characters.
Sure.
Which is a bit of a cop out as far as I'm concerned. And then Apple with its kind of deification of some of its top people. Tesla, I think, has probably done it the most successfully in terms of and Facebook, this, that, and the other. It's strangely enough, it's kind of turned nerdism into something sexy, which is pretty incredible in itself. So how these things interact on a sociological basis is quite interesting. But if you run a big company that for years has spent its time kind of decoupling its personnel from its brand, then you are faced with a serious problem.
Yeah.
You do have a serious problem, because at the end of the day, large companies have an interest, have a vested interest in not being dependent on any one individual. That's something they do, isn't it?
But these days, it's a lot of companies now are having to turn to a content creator. A lot of startups are as well.
Yeah, that must be a very hard. Must be a very bitter pill to swallow.
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah. But their message needs to, in this, and this is the sort of medium that it needs to happen in. Podcasting, video. Again, we're back to this again, and it needs to happen. And a lot of people are embracing that now. There's certainly, I think you're right there. It's sort of like a necessary evil to an extreme. To use an extreme sort of phrase, not quite evil, but negative. Yeah, but yes, as you say, you put it better anyway. They're having to swallow this bitter pill. And accept it. Well,
the jury's out. Between my ears, the jury is still out there. I watch plenty of discussions where people are saying, "Oh, you know what? These big brands really, really need Snapchat. They really, really need it." And I'm sitting there thinking, do you know what? They're selling millions and millions and millions of bottles of Coke or whatever, as it is.
Do they need to be any bigger?
What you're actually saying is that you have certain expertise that you want to sell to the people with the deepest pockets. So,
but then again, it's also
once again, I play devil's advocate, both in technology and in general. So, yes. So I'm going to be kind of skeptical and cynical about that. Yes, maybe some big brands, specifically those that share a demographic with a particular platform. For instance, anybody trying to sell stuff to kids on Snapchat, and please don't get me involved with there's lots of people using Snapchat. Might be able to succeed with it, but I think it'll be some time yet. I could be wrong.
Just picking up on what you were saying though,
very quickly.
Well, again, time will tell, as we said earlier on. But the thing about these brands embracing something, you mentioned the Snapchat social media platform, and you're saying that it's not a necessity for them. I think obviously what they're trying to do though is stay, because they can afford to as well, with personnel wise and financially. Therefore, they're trying to just stay ahead of the competition effectively, and safeguard their sort of space there, if you like. I think really that's what it's all about, because
interestingly enough, it's not a huge financial investment for them, so they can do it as an experiment. But the problem is that it is highly risky in terms of their brand awareness and their brand visibility, their brand character.
Sure.
I mean, are you going to entrust? Let's say you've got a $500 million company with a brand that if you sold it to another Wall Street top 500 company, you could probably get 4 or 5 billion for it. Are you going to entrust that brand to an individual?
Yeah,
isn't a CEO? Are you going to entrust? You're going to entrust that kind of level of investment in any particular individual. I think that takes, it takes a great deal of guts to do that, and you have to be very, very focused on it, even if it's a relatively small financial investment.
Interesting. Well, we're going to have to just watch.
For the most part, CEOs tend to be very shrewd people they're not risk averse, but they need to know the exact risk. And when people are involved, then the risk tends to be not easy to quantify.
Got to watch that space, and it's a very big space in that tech sector. Do
you know what? I think one of the few companies that's really done a great job is. Do you know what? The funny thing is, I don't actually remember the name of the company, so maybe it's not that successful. The company that makes these blenders, and they do this regular YouTube video. Will it blend? Where they blend iPhones and whatever,
anything,
hockey pucks. Basically they're trying to show that this blender can reduce just about anything to dust, and they do it very successfully. It's very interesting, and the guy that actually introduces it is very entertaining as well. So they've done very, very successfully. Just a matter of time to figuring out whether the big brands are going to be interested in doing that kind of thing. I think right now, there may be careers for people to advise the large brands on these platforms, on the use of these platforms. It doesn't necessarily mean that those large brands will do what the consultants tell them.
We have to wait and see. Again, as I said a few times, and it is a case of just seeing how things evolve. And that's going to be the same with what you're doing and with what I'm doing here. So we've got to tell people now, if they want to know more about Andy, Potato Shed, the 3D printer man, how do they find out more about you and follow you?
If you want to find out more about Potato Shed, then come on down. You can send me an email if you've decided you want something 3D printed and you just want to get in touch. You can send me an email. That's potatoShed@AOL.com. I'm one of AOL's last email users, and Potato Shed is spelt very strangely. It's Pot8oSh3D. So let me just go through that one more time. Pot8oSh3D. If you want to watch one of the streams, then I'm on Periscope and Busker, and the name is once again Pot8oSh3D, and I'm on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter as well, and probably other platforms as well, although I can't think of them off the top of my head. So pretty easily accessible and all under the same name. You can have a look on PotatoShed.com, but you probably be disappointed by it because right now it's not something I've been working very hard on.
So many things going on. I know that feeling, as I say, all these different platforms and keeping them up to date, that sort of thing. And if you're focusing right now on what your business is all about, which is the on a daily basis, is your printing and getting all that out there. Yeah, and juggling, you mentioned right at the beginning. It's all about that. Yeah.
Juggling time. Yeah, absolutely. It's all about juggling time.
Brilliant. Listen, Andy, thanks for joining us today.
You're
I'm
very
sure
welcome,
we're going to catch
Martin.
up again.
Thank you very much indeed. It's lovely to see you.
Excellent.
And
things will be evolving.
I'm sure the podcast will go from strength to strength. So more than happy to join you one more time.
No, well, definitely we're going to do that because we've got to do that because next time we want to see a bit more, or we want to see what we could hear in the background going on. We'll certainly see a little bit of action there, shall we say? But if people want to get it, as it were, straight from the horse's mouth, then absolutely get onto the Busker app right now and follow Potato Shed. And if you can't find him, everyone else can, so just ask them. Thanks very much once again, Andy. Yep. Bye bye for now.